Hi, everybody. Welcome to the next session at this fantastic summit that has been put together so that we can all bring our expertise, share our knowledge, and make things better for everybody who's concerned. I'm delighted to report that these videos these live recordings that we're doing now will be available shortly after the expo. The wonderful Sigrid, who's doing all the work to get all this together, is also taking on the role of making sure that they're all shareable later. So that's going to be absolutely fantastic. And it is my great joy now to introduce our next presenter, our next expert, Lisa Bowen, the mindset alchemist, which just sounds so magical. And I know that that is indeed what she is and who she is. She runs a business called Elisi Coaching, as you can see from behind her. And I'm sure, Lisa, you're going to introduce us to Elisi. I've read about her. I'm really looking forward to finding out more about her. And Lisa's focus for this session is around finding opportunities in your challenge. When I was reading a little bit about Lisa, I love the idea that she now does what she calls spiritual earthquake rescue. And I know that I have had times in my life where I have felt, as you described, like the world has crumbled around me and I'm surrounded by these big, bloody great big rocks. And what the hell? How did I get here? And how do I get out of this? And you then take that and help us find opportunities under all of that. So, Lisa, it's delightful to have you in the room. Over to you.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Helen. And again, thank you, Sigrid, because without you, none of this would be happening. And it's just an incredible experience. So I'm very grateful for that. We've had some amazing speakers this morning, and I want to build a little bit on that. So it'll be a mix of everything. Like everything I do comes to one point, but it's just different ways of coming in from it. So we might not follow quite the title of the talk, but you will find I've got a couple of videos in the auditorium, and there's a little video on my booth. I do encourage you to come over and have a look and just check us out. And yeah, just very briefly, I do talk about it in the video, but Elise is Cherokee for grandmother. And when I was a therapist, it just became an obvious name. It found me, I didn't find it. But as a therapist, as an elder, as a healer, it was perfect. And then one of my clients, my coaching clients, described me as a cross between Mary Poppins and a Jedi Knight. He said she blew in, she's turned everything upside down, and she'll blow out again when the wind changes. And this, well, and you can see the character up behind me. So that's Elise. So that's where all that came from. But that she very much represents who I am. And I like to bring lightness and fun and joy to life because it's freaking heavy out there. You know, life is heavy, and a heavy energy is not going to get us the results we want. But I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow. So today, what I'd love to build on is, have you ever thought your mindset might be the reason you haven't achieved your dreams? And touching on what Diana said, which was just perfect about, our mindset in a financial, and this works in all areas of our mindset. But, we can earn a lot of money, but our mindset is such that we can only earn that amount. If we earn more than that, you will default back to it. And I was really lucky. I've worked with some amazing people, and I trained with the late great Bob Proctor as a consultant for his company, Proctor Gallagher Institute. And he put this so beautifully. He said, our mind is the thermostat. Now, you've got a thermostat in your house, whether it's for heating or for air conditioning, doesn't really matter. Okay, so the temperature is set to that thermostat. If you go and open a window or a door, that is going to change the temperature within the room. Now, no matter what you do, the thermostat will bring that temperature back to the thermostat level it is set at. So if you don't change the temperature of your thermostat, you won't change the results. You will always default back. Yes, you'll get hot or cold, you'll go higher or lower, but you will always come back to where you're set, where your thermostat is set. So it's really quite important to understand that, because that really explains, I don't know about you, how many times have we tried to lose weight or become financially independent or any of these things, and we get there, we start to get there, we're getting progress, and then all of a sudden we're back down to where we were before because we haven't changed the thermostat. So we really need to change the thermostat on that. So I really want to sort of explore a little bit and try and tie in what you were saying, Helen, about turning your challenges into opportunities, or finding the opportunities in your challenges. And this, again, it all links into mindset. But just for a moment, let's just imagine that we're underneath that rubble. Okay, we've been floored. Hands up. We've all been there, haven't we? More than once, some of us. I don't know about you. The older I get, the more I seem to, the older I get, the more I seem to have been under that pile of rubble. And yet, experience has taught me that those really deep, dark times are potentially the most productive and they have the most potential. And I think it was Napoleon Hill who said that within every challenge is the seed of an even greater opportunity. And in the Chinese, I say Chinese because there's no language as Chinese, but Cantonese or whatever the main Chinese language is, the sign for crisis is also the sign. It's made up of two symbols, and it is crisis and opportunity. So you can't have one without the other. Now, the challenge we have is that they're usually at opposite extremes. So one's over this way, one's over this way. Now, we tend to be looking at the one that we're in. So when life is a challenge, when we're under the rubble, we're just looking straight in front of us at more of the same. Now, if we want something different, then we have to turn around and face the other direction. We at least, if we're under the rubble, we at least have to turn our head to see if there's a way out over there or if there's a way out over there. So we need to explore that. And I've got a couple of videos, and there's another one on my YouTube channel who we talk about the energy net. And this is when a situation happens, we're caught in that energy net. Now, when I talk about energy, I talk about frequency. And I want to just explain a little bit about music for anybody, or use the music analogy for anybody who's not familiar with frequency. And, musical notes are a frequency. So if I hit an A key on a piano, I'm going to get an A sound. And an A sound is lovely. But I might get a bit bored with an A sound to the point where it becomes annoying and then frustrating, and then I get angry with it. Now, if I want to change that frequency, that sound, I have to hit a different key. So I have to move from the A key to whatever key I want to change to, whatever I want to hear. And we're very much the same. When we're in this energy net, when we're in this earthquake, we're under the pile of rubble. We're on a certain frequency, but we need to get out from under that to get a different result. How often, as my alarm goes, how often have something's happened at work or at home and it's escalated really, really quickly? Something minor, but it's escalated really quickly. Does anybody know why that might be? I know I'm talking to some mindset people here. No?
Oh, I want to say that it's because it's the clash of two energies or frequencies, and that's why it escalates, because it's like energetically we're working against each other.
Yeah, there's an element of that, Helen. What happens? Is anybody familiar with the RAS, the reticular activating system? Okay, so that's a little part of the base of the brain here that needs to prove that we're right. We've made the right decision. So when we make a decision that somebody is whatever we determine them at. I'm aware that I'm live here. We we lock that in. So our reticular activating system will now look for evidence to prove that you made the right decision, that this person is a whatever we've decided to call them. Okay. Now, when we've had an altercation, you have the other person's reticular activating system is doing exactly the same thing. So you will keep finding more and more things bad about that person or that situation because that's what you're looking for. Now, I liken it to going to a dress shop, I want to buy a dress. I've got this great award ceremony coming up. I want to buy a new dress, all fancy. And I find myself in a builder's yard. Now, I can search as much as I like in that builder's yard. I ain't going to find my fancy dress there. I can get as frustrated as I like, but I ain't going to find my fancy dress there. I need to come out of the builder's yard, turn around, and come into the dress shop. And there I will find lots of dresses because I'm looking for dresses in the dress shop. So when we've got the situation that we're under the rubble or something's going wrong, we have to turn around and say, what is it I want to see instead? And there's lots of different tactics on that. On one of my videos, there's a process for that. I call it lagging, and there's lots of different ways of doing that. But it's important that we actually do take that time and say, okay, this isn't going to get me the result I want. I need to change. Now, this can bring up a lot of resistance for a couple of reasons. One is that we feel like we're condoning what the other person has said or done. Okay, and we're not condoning them. The other is that it feels like we're having to take ownership and blame. Well, it was my fault. Okay, well, if I take responsibility, then it's my fault. And I really want to make a differentiation here between responsibility and blame. For instance, if you're outside and you see a road traffic accident, okay, I'd like to think you weren't to blame for it, unless you were crossing the road you shouldn't have been. You weren't to blame for it. However, you have some responsibility to make sure everybody's safe, to call the emergency services if that's what's required, and all of those things. Administer first aid if you're qualified to do so. Okay, you have a responsibility, but that's not the blame. So when we take responsibility for a situation, or at least our part in a situation, because remember, there takes two people to be an argument. Yes? You can't, if there's an altercation, there's two people. So therefore, you have to have contributed at some level. It might not have been your fault, but just the fact that it's happened to you means that you have an element of responsibility in there. Now, the beautiful thing is that when you take responsibility, then you can change things. And until you take that responsibility, you can't do anything. Until you take responsibility, you have given the power to whoever, whatever, is on the other side of this altercation or this situation that you don't like. So we need to shift that frequency. Take responsibility and say, okay, this isn't what I want. I'm going to shift that. And like I said, there's lots of different techniques, and head over to the auditorium because there's one on there, or my YouTube channel. There's a couple on there. So I won't go into that now. But it's really important that we do that. And once we do that, if we come back to the earthquake analogy, okay, what we have to do is we have to remove all the rubble. But once we've removed all the rubble, we can find we've got a flat canvas, we can create something new, we can build something completely different. And how often have we seen this where we've had an earthquake and something that we all thought was beautiful? I mean, I know for a fact Christchurch, I visited Christchurch just after the earthquake there, lost some beautiful stuff. But what is built is often much better. It's very different, but it's better. So a spiritual earthquake or any challenge gives us the opportunity to say, I wonder what's on the other side of this. Another analogy I use a lot of when we're being challenged, it can feel like we're under a pile of manure, to put it politely. Okay? But what is manure for? It's for growth. So the more manure you get, the bigger, the stronger, the healthier you're going to grow. That can be hard to remember that when you're under that pile of manure. But trust me, like a seed, you just sit there, you absorb the nutrients. And when you come out and you grow, we come back bigger and stronger. So, how many of you, I mean, I know you said, Helen, feel like we've been flawed, but when we've come out the other side, we go, oh my goodness, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. We couldn't see it at the time. The first best thing that ever happened to me was getting chronic fatigue syndrome. Bearing in mind, I was training to be a physical training instructor in the Reserve Army at the time, super, super, super fit. And all of a sudden, I couldn't even walk upstairs. I had to be in a wheelchair to go shopping. It was just, to me, it was the end of the world. Oh my God, life's not worth living. Except it was. And it was a wake up call. But it changed my life. I became a therapist. I became a coach. I became all these things happened because of that situation. Had I not had that situation, I'd probably be dead by now. Literally, because I just didn't know when to stop. I would keep pushing through. And you can read more about that in my book, Finding the Gorgeous in You, which you can download for free on my booth. Yay! So, really, just I'm conscious of the time. Just be aware that whenever you're in the middle of a challenge, it's actually the seed of an opportunity. It's actually showing you that, hey, this isn't quite right. I call it an invitation from life. It's an invitation from life to live life your way. Because let's face it, how many of us are actually living our lives the way we want to live them? Especially, and I hate to say this, especially as women, and especially as I hate to say this even more, as more mature women. We were so programmed on how women should behave, what we should do. Now, I've always been the black sheep in the family, but it's been tough. It's been tough. So, are you living your life your way? Or are you living your life the way that society or family, whoever, thinks you should live? Thank you.
Some deep thoughts there,
Mm.
Lisa. I think you're right about it. I smiled because I am childless by choice, and even that's kind of a bit. People go, "What do you mean you
That's,
never had children? What's wrong with you?"
yeah,
Um, I had stepchildren, which also changed my decision. But I think I look at a number of people in my world, and yeah, a lot of their decisions are based on the programming of how a woman
very
behaves.
much,
And
very
I'm
much so.
absolutely loving that a lot of the women who are sharing information and expertise on this beautiful platform that Sigrid has put together have a few years on them. They're not spring chickens. They have actually, it's not theory that they're operating on. It's all about the practice, and we have been through the manure, and so we have had some growth experiences. So thank you so much for those ideas. I want to know more about Elise. The idea of someone who's a combination of Mary Poppins and a Jedi Knight really appeals to me. A really clear one for me was we need to change our frequency to change our results. And
Mhm.
and I that's one of those ones that I know, and I'm actually going through some frequency changes at the moment. And so the results are changing. It's like, oh look,
Mhm.
that bit's going with that bit, and isn't that fabulous? So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing all of that. It was
You're
absolutely
welcome.
wonderful, and I appreciate you. It was absolutely fantastic.